Hi, so I'm Kevin Haley, and I'm running for County Commissioner in Shelby County, District 4.
Kevin, why do you want to be on the Shelby County Commission?
Well, I've always been very active in politics, and after the current presidential election, I wanted to get much more active.
Why?
Frankly, I was pretty upset by what I saw happening and pretty much getting more upset by it all the time. So, rather than just sitting home being angry, I just wanted to get more in the game and try and help enact positive changes, which I can do right in my community as a county commissioner. So
I was going to ask you, there's a lot of ways to get involved in public policy and issues like that. Why Shelby County Commission?
Well, it kind of started, I guess, very organically by groups of Democrats that I was meeting in Germantown and nearby. I live in Germantown, who were looking for people to run for offices where we didn't have any candidates. So I thought, well, luckily I had a fairly flexible regular job, and this was something I would love to do. So I said, hey, I think I can do this. And at first I kind of jumped in with pretty much no clue of how this works or what it was. And I didn't realize quite how important the office is. But I quickly did. I began researching it. After I agreed to it first, I then began really researching it. Since then, I've watched countless hours of the commission meetings that are available online on video, read the minutes, and really tried to get a feel for what was going on. As a concerned citizen, I had a pretty good idea of the issues that I read about in the paper, but I could really dig in by watching the commission meetings and see what they were funding and voting on.
Tell us about your district and the issues that people in your district are telling you they care most about.
That's a great question, because in some ways, I do come from a district where portions of it are very privileged people, and I would say I live in a pretty modest part of Germantown, but still I'm very grateful for being able to live there. And I don't see desperation or poverty in my neighborhood or really in my district, although there are areas that are getting more affected by crime. And my district goes basically from the southern part of Cordova all the way down to the state line, kind of right alongside Germantown. And while there are a lot of things I want to do that help my district, also part of it is being someone from this district who's getting involved county-wide, because I care about everyone in the county, and where we have these school boards that branched out in the suburbs. I can't tell you how grateful I am to see my child go to a Germantown public school, and it's the ideal school experience, really, and I want that for every child in Shelby County. I don't think only the wealthy people should have that. And I realize we can't overnight turn communities that have big problems into idyllic spots automatically, but we can improve them, greatly, I think, and make them safer and much better quality of education. So it's kind of coming from an altruistic standpoint. I want to help the greater community, and I think that doing that helps my community as well. There's a bit of an attitude of fear and trepidation of the city, of going into town for some parts of Germantown. And I think the more that we help people in town, the more we lower crime there. And by doing so, I mean by providing opportunities and not just clamping down, and that's leading into problems with mass incarceration. But what I'm saying is by trying to help those people and not just lock everybody up. But as we do help the inner cities, if you're out in the suburbs and you're scared, it helps you too, because anywhere you reduce crime in town, it's going to spread out outside into the suburbs as well.
As someone who lives in Germantown and has kids in Germantown, have you felt that fear and trepidation? And what do you do about that? What do you tell people? How do you address that?
Yeah, I honestly have. Yeah, very much felt that. I early on, when I moved to Germantown about 2.5 years ago, I got onto community bulletin boards on Facebook, and yeah, I was kind of shocked by that attitude. Wear a Kevlar vest if you go into Memphis, you know. Oh, you can't go to a movie anymore in town, you know. Like you won't survive if you cross into Memphis. I mean, you know, those are some loud minority voices. That's not everyone, but it seemed fairly pervasive that there was at least some fear and paranoia about how bad and dangerous the city is. And I've been all over town, and while I certainly know that, you know, that there are problems, I've been through the absolute worst neighborhoods in Memphis and found that, yeah, the poverty is shocking and it saddens me, but that the people are very nice. The average person is not a criminal. So.
You said that you moved to Germantown 2.5 years ago. What brought you to Germantown? Where were you before?
I was in California. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and ever since I was a child, my aunt had moved to Germantown. This is about 50 years ago, and brought my cousins up in Germantown. So my mother retired here about 10-15 years ago, and 2.5 years ago roughly, my wife and I decided to move somewhere more affordable than California, and my mom was right here in Germantown, and we thought it would be a great place to live, and it's turned out to be honestly much better than what I expected. I really love it. I could deal with a little less humidity, but it's hot, and I'm getting used to it, but it's been great.
What part of California were you in?
We were in Los Angeles, Culver City specifically.
So you moved from Los Angeles to Memphis.
We did.
Okay. Tell us what that was like when you moved in.
Okay, that was a culture shock for me in a lot of ways. I am a Democrat, and I'm a proudly progressive Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
and I found myself in my comfort bubble in that area. And contrary to what some people might think, it was a pretty nice place to live as well. And I think those are good people that agree with those ideals. It was very worrisome to me when I moved here right after the presidential election and Trump had won, or right around that time. It was all kind of coinciding, and to see people who I considered friends and acquaintances that seemed pretty supportive of this, when it was a really kind of a shocking thing to me that I did not support and was upset about. I kind of felt like maybe we've made the wrong choice. I don't know if it's going to work out being here. I felt overwhelmed by it. When it turns out that, you know, Shelby County is majority Democrat. The presidential election, Hillary Clinton won by 28 points in Shelby County. My district leans, it's not overwhelmingly Republican, but my district leans Republican largely because of the way that it's drawn. It encircles all of Germantown. And if you had cut that anywhere else down the middle or something, it would even things out a lot more. So, you know, I found that Democrats are here. And the more in town, I certainly noticed that more people were here. There was all kinds of positive marches going on. We went to the March for Women was the first one I went to. I found it to be a very peaceful, uplifting, energetic event. And I started to think maybe this won't be so bad. I found some great people here.
Tell us about your professional background.
Well, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I decided, I did a little bit of college. It wasn't what I wanted to do at the time, and I decided to pursue a career in music. And that's what I pursued for quite some time, and that took me to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, and to New York. And I did that for many years. Part of
recording side, or
I'm a
musician?
guitar player and bassist and musician. I've done some composing later on for TV and film. And I did that. That was my passion in life, and so I really went for my dream. And I grew up alongside some people in D.C. like Dave Grohl, who was an acquaintance. He's a very famous, very successful musician now. Yeah, for the barbecue thing, I understand, and his concert. So, you know, there was a chance of doing something like this, and I didn't quite make it to that level by any stretch. So I went back to D.C. after a while and went to University of Maryland, where I studied 2 majors. I had aerospace engineering, and then I actually switched that to English education. So I have a couple of years majoring in English education. And then, somewhere along the line, in New York, I met my wonderful wife. We've been together 11 years. We have a 6.5-year-old who's in the Germantown school system going into 1st grade. And she's a movie trailer editor and a real veteran of it. She's done some really big films. And we decided that instead of some of the kind of odd jobs, not career jobs I had been doing, it'd be better if I could get into that. And I really wanted to, so I basically taught myself how to do that. I figured it out. I watched courses on how you use the video editing software. I had a background in knowing, I was good with computers, but I wanted to do it, and I tried, and I became competent in using it, and I was given some freelance jobs, and now I'm doing things like I just finished for the 2nd year in a row editing the trailer or the advertisement for the upcoming series of documentaries that'll be on PBS. So when you see kind of a highlight reel of what's coming out this year, I cut that and made the montages and all that stuff. So that's basically that's my professional career. My wife and I run our own small business doing that, where I work freelance as a video editor, and she's sort of still in that business with me, but also has a staff job with a company in New York that she edits movie trailers for.
Okay.
So music, movies, technology,
Yeah.
aerospace. Why did you? What brought you to politics?
Well, that's a great question. It makes it sound like it's a leap, but that's all. Politics is part of life. Every minute that I spent doing music or any of those other things, I was still reading the newspaper, and I was still. Yeah, well, I'm a fan of your paper too. Yes, I hadn't been introduced to the Commercial Appeal yet at that point. I largely read the Washington Post. Boo, hiss, I know everyone. So that's what my father, always read, and where I'm from, so that's where I started mostly. But then, as the internet came around, I got my news from all types of sources. So I was always really involved in it. The music scene, where I grew up in Washington, D.C., I was mostly into the punk rock music. This is a long time ago. I don't go to those kind of crazy shows anymore. But as a teen, it was actually a very positive scene, and it was led by some leaders of other bands that became very well known. And we had benefit shows for the homeless. We were in D.C. We went to the South African embassy and protested against apartheid there. I was about 14 or 15 and was getting involved in this stuff, and this is in the 80s. I'm glad to see these high school kids organizing after school shootings and stuff. It's fantastic, and I feel like I lived a similar kind of activist role a long time ago when I was a young person. So I've always cared.
You talk a lot about education as something you're concerned about. Is there another issue countywide or in your district that you are focused on addressing?
Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few. To name another big one up at the top would be health care and keeping our hospitals open. as I'm sure you know, we have not successfully expanded Medicaid in Tennessee and have lost out on perhaps $4 billion in federal funds, something in that neighborhood. We have only Regional 1, our only public hospital with the Level 1 trauma center in operation. We've lost, I believe, 10 or 11 rural hospitals in Tennessee. So helping who the new county mayor will be, helping that person to keep Regional 1 open and running smoothly. And I personally hope that that is Lee Harris, because I feel that he's the most devoted to that issue, and I want to help in any way that I can to choose the right people to keep Regional 1 open. And I think that in turn, doing so will hopefully help reduce healthcare costs for people. But I want to pursue any avenues we can to lower healthcare costs for people and make healthcare available to people who can't afford insurance.
One of the issues the county commission will be facing at some point will not just be keeping Regional 1 open, but possibly building a brand new hospital, talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, as someone who's still a bit on the outside, I don't have all the answers on that.
Because you think Regional 1 is an important aspect of this?
Yes, and I think that modernizing it and hopefully expanding it, I think certainly this seems to make sense, and it's probably something we should be doing. I would think that I would lean towards supporting something like that, and I'd want to look more carefully into it.
You talked earlier about some of the communities of Memphis that have not fared so well.
Mm-hmm.
Contrast to parts of Germantown where you live.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about how you might use the economic development tools in the toolkit to address those issues, and things like pilots and TIFs and other incentives. How would you use those?
Yeah, that's a good topic that I think that, I've seen pilots, I think, kind of thrown around as sort of sweet deals in areas that I don't think need them. I don't think you need to draw anyone to Germantown with a pilot. I think it might make a lot more sense in an underserved community, and might be the best place to use things like that. I know that there's the Southbrook Mall project. That, again, is something that I'm quite sure I'm behind it, but it's a very complicated issue where all the funds are coming from and who's paying for what. I don't know exactly how EDGE works, or if, I assume they're doing a good job with the funds, but I don't know, from firsthand experience, I haven't seen exactly where the money's coming from and what it would do. I'd like to see lots of economic opportunities for people in those areas. Like I told you, doing movie trailer editing, I am a freelance person basically at that. I run my own business, so I have jobs some of the time, and some of the times I don't. And when I don't, I go out and drive for Uber and Lyft, actually out there doing it. And I went to Fraser, I went to Orange Mound, I went to places that people in Germantown said, "You're crazy, don't go there, it's too dangerous." And I think I might have even been a little naive, because I was coming from a place that was so not prejudiced that I thought, oh, there's nothing to worry about, when really it could be dangerous without you being prejudiced against people that live there. So I might have gone in a little too comfortable. And some people that were from those communities told me, yeah, it's dangerous around here, you should be paying attention, which I do try to at least keep my eyes open. Anyways, I saw people that were very nice people in there, but I'd see a lack of opportunities, and I think that can tie in to education, where we need to be connecting apprenticeship programs and basically job training being available to high school students. And of course, STEM education going towards jobs to prepare them for tech jobs is huge, and it's going to be kind of the future of jobs. And that kind of goes into, we're a community, this all ties together. That kind of goes into investing back into the physical plant of the schools. They need a lot of repairs. I think that those repairs can be done with a long-term solution. You might invest a little bit more, but you can have buildings that are prepared for STEM learning, and instead of just patching the roof, I don't know, you put a better, it might cost more, you put a roof on that'll save us money over 20 years as opposed to just a quick fix and then we pay for it again and again. I just think there could be smart ways to invest in fixing those buildings, and I'd like to see those training and opportunities provided for young people.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh yeah, one more question. So you've been campaigning, of course, for both the primary and general throughout your district and talking to a range of people. What have you learned about yourself?
Oh wow, I've learned about myself. Well, a few things. It was very scary to just start speaking in front of groups of people, but I kind of learned, and it was scary to start introducing myself to people. Hi, I'm Kevin Haley. I'm running in your district.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a career politician. I'm not an insider with all these connections to people. So I think it reminded me that I'm doing this because I really care. I'm doing it from a place of just wanting to help people and do good, and I'm seeing countless other people doing it in groups like Indivisible Memphis and Stand for Children and all these great organizations where I'm meeting people. It wasn't so much about me getting this office, but I knew me as a person wanted to be involved, and so I guess I kind of learned that I can do it, and it was a little bit scary at first to put myself out there. I thought, I'm not a polished politician. Are people going to laugh at me? It was frightening. So I think I learned that, I have things that I should be confident about and that I have a lot to offer, and I want to provide those to the community.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. What's it going to take for you to win?
That's a really good question. I'm in a tough district. Let's see, without telling my entire strategy. Basically, I will say that the votes for me to win in my district exist, and if I can get those people motivated to show up and vote for me, we have a chance. It's going to be really tough. But I am out there every day, knocking on doors, both canvassing, where I actually try to talk to people and find out their concerns about the issues and assure them that those are the things I'm trying to help fix, and also just going around literally putting my door hangers that have my campaign information on, probably hundreds almost every day. I don't get out there every single day, but pretty close. So I'm trying to get my name out there, and if I can inspire those people to trust me with their vote, there is a shot.
Great. Thank you.
That'll do it?
Yeah.
All right, great.